All I can tell y'all is that it's about to go down.
Yo, all right. Welcome to Southeastern, Minnesota's #1 podcast for high school sports. This is Tiger Nation and Beyond with your host, straight out of Stewartville, Adam Peterson.
Hey, what's up, Tiger Nation, and welcome into Tiger Nation and Beyond. This is season number 5, episode number 2. If you were with us last week, what an incredible episode that was, where Coach Mueller and I broke down our fantasy football draft over the last 7 or 8 seasons. Results on that are yet to be determined. We're going to keep allowing feedback to come back and see who thinks which team is better. There was no wrong pick in that one, but season number 5, episode number 2 is one of everybody's favorites. If I go back on the stats on our episodes and our release and the number of downloads that happen, this one every year is, if it's not at the top, it's in the top 3. I think actually, if you look all time, 2 of the top 3 download numbers come from season previews. So how could I not bring in the man, the myth, the legend, two-time district coach of the year, once in the SFA district, once in the brand new Big Southeast district, 2 undefeated seasons in those years. Incredible. The guy that needs no introduction, UW lacrosse alum, head coach Mueller. How you doing?
You're too kind, Adam. Thank you. I'm doing great. It's it's like getting ready for the Christmas season, with football season right around the corner. We're a couple of weeks into our preseason preparation. Things have been going awesome. The kids and the coaches alike, everyone's just pouring themselves into everything. We've had a great first couple weeks to get ready for week number 1, and we're excited to get this season kicked off. So this is always a lot of fun to do this with you. Can't thank you enough for your support and the platform to allow us to do this and celebrate all the great things that we have going on in our program, and really help kind of bridge that gap and connect with what we got going on in our program with fans, parents, community. To really, just build that Stewartville football program as one unit, within the Stewartville community as a whole. So I'm excited to do this today and talk about the awesome things we have to look forward to this year.
And as you all see, if you didn't catch last week's episode, trying a little something new, 2 different mediums that we can use. The audio that we're putting on our normal podcast and sending out to all the podcast hosting, but also trying to do this YouTube video channel, give you an idea of how excited I get talking to this guy and getting pumped up. Every year I don't even want to come close to comparing the number of hours I put in compared to what you do each year. But every year towards the end of it, and I'm sure you feel like this way at the end of the football season, you kind of rack up the hours and you're like, man, that was a lot of work. Like, can I do it again? Can I do it again? And every year during the summer, I think the same thing with the podcasts and the videos and things like that. Like, gosh, that was a lot of time. And obviously you have 3 kids. I have 2 that are growing up and more active. But every year, I get to August, and it gets around that time, and I get that little itch here for Stewartville football. And I know that the last episode we talked about fantasy football and that I don't do it. And you said you probably should start. The problem is when people at work ask me, hey, how is Washington doing? Or do you watch Green Bay or Minnesota or whatever? No idea, but I can tell you all about Stewartville football because that's what I spend most of my time on. So thank you so much for joining me once again. I know people absolutely love these episodes. I think even Coach Pops listens to some of these, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. Oh, the whole family does. No, they love it. Like I said, huge kudos to you for getting on here and doing it. You do it because you enjoy it and you love it, and same thing on our end. So it's just so much fun to kind of share, that excitement for the program and the season coming up with you, and looking forward to doing it.
I'm surprised I actually got you back on the podcast. Speaking of, before I get to that, speaking of loving it, enjoying it, unless Kurt Hughes changes his mind over the next 2 weeks, great news. We got former head coach Aaron Meyer is going to be joining me in the booth for, I believe, all 4 games this year, 4 home games. Woo! So we'll have somebody up there that really knows Coach Mueller's style. He knows the game plan probably. Probably get some inside scoop from Coach. But he and I will be calling hopefully all the games this year now that we got that camera and the audio all hooked in and running seamlessly. Very excited to do that. But what I was going to get at is I'm surprised I've been able to get you onto Tiger Nation and beyond. You know, we're a smaller podcast, smaller video group that, goes to the Stewartville fans, maybe a few other areas that might watch it to try to, get some inside scoop from you and develop a game plan to beat us, which nobody did last regular season. But anyway, you've been making the rounds on a lot of national media, or you've been making the rounds on podcasts, and I believe you've spoken at conferences. Your name is really getting out there. I saw your follower just pass Coach Razzles up. I mean, it was just like that. And so I have to ask, what's this offseason been like? It seems crazy, but I mean, a guy that puts two out of three regular season undefeated seasons together, I'd want you on too. Talk to me about that. It looks like you've been talking about your offseason program, your football program, how you do it. Tell me about why Coach Mueller's the number one get in the United States.
I wouldn't go that far. No, I mean, I'm lucky enough to be in the position, mostly because of the athletes and assistant coaches that I got in my program helping us find that success, right? If you're not being successful in winning football games, people probably don't care a whole lot about what you have to say. So I've been fortunate enough to have some talented players and some equally talented coaches to work with and help me through. And, our success has been because of the group or the unit as a whole. But yeah, it's been a really fun off season, kind of growing professionally that way in connecting, not just with kind of the local football and athletic community, but being able to go out beyond not even just kind of the state of Minnesota, but at a national level. And talk about all the great things that we're doing in our program and why we feel, we're having the success that we are in terms of how we kind of organize and run our program and the things we do in the off season and in season, and just sharing those things with a lot of coaches that are interested and want to know, what are you guys doing that's helping you find success? Because it is a little different than maybe what your traditional high school football program would look like from, an athletic performance standpoint, and then an X's and O's and on the field standpoint about how we organize everything we do in our program. And I know you love our Feed the Cats mantra.
Feed the cats! Coach Razzle loves it too!
But that's that's kind of where it all starts a little bit, and just kind of it's not necessarily just certain things that we do in our program. It's really a program philosophy and a way to live as a whole, and just talking about really enjoying and loving what you do and being passionate about what you do, because we feel like that's going to help create the best version of yourself then. And so what do we got to do to help create great experiences so that kids love it? And we talk a lot about less is more and things like that, and trying to focus on the things that matter the most and have the greatest impact on our success. And so we've really wrapped that into everything that we do, again, from an off-season development standpoint, and then as we get in season and things like that, on top of some of the focuses from a speed standpoint that we've really incorporated into our program as well, in building that speed and that athleticism and how that transfers to success on a football field. Then just really kind of doing a deeper dive into what is it that makes football players successful, and trying to double down on those attributes and really improve, because we felt like from a speed and performance standpoint, if we're able to build those things, it's going to make an impact or a greater impact with all of our athletes across the board, regardless of what position they play. It's going to enhance their abilities to be a better football player on the field, whether they're an offensive lineman, a linebacker, a wide receiver, you name it. And really, it's going to just help enhance their athletic ability as a whole, regardless of the sport that they play. So we're see it transfer to the success, in our basketball programs and our wrestling program in the spring with track and baseball and things like that. So just really trying to build a complete athlete, more than anything else. So I was fortunate enough to speak at a national clinic It's called the Track Football Consortium, and brings together actually not just nationally but internationally some of the best speed and performance coaches around the world. And it was very humbling to be in the list that they select 20 coaches every year to present at that clinic, and I was kind of the one high school football coach that they asked to present about how are we taking some of these performance things and putting it into play for the high school athlete. And so I think kind of what they asked for me from my standpoint and my expertise is how does this look? How do you apply it to the high school athlete in a team setting? Because some of the guys that were presenting were sport performance coaches and speed coaches who are working maybe with Olympic level athletes in small group settings, and some of that stuff is awesome and great but hard to implement necessarily in a group setting with 150 high school athletes. So how do you marry those two worlds and make it work? And so it was just an awesome experience to be able to connect and grow in that community. There are so many talented, smart coaches when you start to get outside, kind of your bubble, to help grow, individually for me and professionally, and then be able to take all those, ideas that I got from connecting with that community and bring it back to Stewartville football to continue to grow and improve. So got to do a couple other clinics besides that one as well.
So you even got to ask Coach Nick Saban a question.
I got to, at our coaches clinic. That was
a little
really
intimidating?
Cool. Yeah. Well, I will say
stupid question, right?
What was it back there? It was a virtual deal, and I kind of got to submit a question, and I didn't know if they'd pick it or not. But that was pretty cool that I got to get his feedback too on what they're doing with the best college football program in the country and one of the best dynasties probably of all time.
Absolutely.
They're doing a lot of the similar things in their program that we're doing to a higher level and extent. Sure. They got different athletes that they're working with, and we have our high school version of it, I guess, essentially. But very, very similar roots and philosophies in terms of how they train, how they practice. And it was just, I didn't know what he was going to say.
Yeah.
And it could have
totally good response. Lengthy.
Right. Yeah. It could have blown up in my face, but
yeah.
He hit on all the points I was hoping he would. And it was really cool to hear him talk about the impact that's had on their success, and really basically how they'll continue to do that. You can't imagine going back to doing it any other way, and we're
absolutely
in the same boat.
Absolutely.
So, it was an awesome off season, and we got into the summer then, and got to get on the field a little bit and put things into practice. So it's been a fun preparation over the last 9 months or so, and can't wait for this season to kick off here.
Yeah, what I love about your feedback there is you talking about what you're doing in terms of the development of the athlete, and especially as the person, but how it contributes to the success of other sports. And we talked about it last year, and I would encourage anybody to go back to the preseason preview or season preview from last season, where you spoke so eloquently on the benefits of being a multi-sport athlete and just that competitive excellence and being able to compete, but also just the transition or the transfer of abilities that you build in those athletes. It's benefiting basketball, it's benefiting track and field, it's benefiting baseball. And so that's what I really appreciate about you as a coach, is just not only encouraging multi-sport athletes, but also being able to develop them to make them more successful in that sport. So thank you so much. One of the things I wanted to ask was, I know last year, and I promise I'll get around to the question, last year I sent out an email to all the coaches in the Big Southeast District wanting to do a season preview of each of the teams, who are their top athletes and things like that. And what actually happened was, one of the teams, I won't name them, I think we all know who it is, but one of the teams actually created then their own podcast, to try to do what you and I do, where they try to do previews, and I was waiting for the Twitter videos to come out. But anyway, then we start to see other schools calling themselves, like Comet Nation and Bear Nation and things like that. What I'm getting to is for me, it kind of starts to, eat at me when people, copy what we're doing. Is there any concern with you sharing what's made our program so successful, like the athletes, the speed focus that we have, the how much rest is important and recovery is important. Is there any concern that some of those coaches will take that? I don't know. I'm like super competitive, and I want Stewartville to have the upper hand always and be the number one squad. Is there any concern, or are you one of those guys that, if I can benefit other athletes, even if they're not in my program? I know the type of guy you are, and I'm assuming this is where you're going to go with it. But if you can benefit other athletes in other programs, help them out, that you will. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny you say that. Probably the guy that gives me the hardest time about it is Coach Pops and my dad. And he's like, you gotta stop giving away our secrets. And it's like, well, I don't know how much of a secret it is, because we're not, it's not like I came up, I'm not necessarily the originator of this. I'm gathering information and learning all the time from other coaches, and then grabbing and pulling what we can to put it together and make it work and fit in our own unique way here in Stewartville. I think the great analogy that I get from, so Tony Holler, who I've over the past year have really grown in my relationship with him, which has been absolutely awesome through the track football consortium, like I mentioned, and things like that, and got to spend a weekend with him down in Florida at a clinic this spring, which was really, really cool. And then another guy, I guess I would consider them mentors for me as a football and a sprint football coach, you could call it, is Brad Dixon, who had been doing it for a long time down in the state of Illinois. So I got to spend a weekend with those two guys. That was really, really cool. And they actually have some articles that they've written about sprint-based football. And, a lot of coaches just want the damn recipe, right? They just want to know, what is it that you do so we can do that here? And a great point that they make is, you can have the recipe, but unless you know how to cook, it's not necessarily going to work for everybody. And so I think that's what we've done such a good job in this program, is really learning how to cook and taking those ingredients and putting them together the right way, so that it comes out as a successful product at the end. And so I don't mind giving out the recipe, because it's up to those other coaches to figure out how they got to cook it in their program. And I think we've found a pretty darn good way to do it in our program. And it's still an ever changing and evolving recipe that we're dealing with. But I think that's the other unique thing about the coaching community is, it's such a, it's all about sharing and give and take back and forth. Because like I said, I have very few original things that we've come up with on our program. There's a few, but a lot of stuff is stolen from someone. So I always feel like, I need to give back the things that we've come up with and found that work in our program. Because I owe it to the coaching community, because I've taken as much or more from the community than what I've given back. So it's a really cool community to be a part of, because I think coaches are willing to help and want to grow the sport as much as possible.
Well, I'm glad we have Gordon Ramsay leading our football team, being able to cook like you can. Unbelievable. One more question before we move on to the team and stuff. And it's something that I've thought about, to be honest with you, the last few years. Geez, I'm almost knocking over my microphone. But something I've thought about the last couple of years. And I hate to even bring it up, because I don't even want to put it in your head, because I would never want this to happen, because we're so lucky to have you leading our program. But what I've seen over I've gotten to watch it the last 8 years. But your offensive mind, the way that you can, I feel like a lot of times you're playing chess on the field when other people are playing checkers, meaning like you'll run a second down play to the right side so that you can get the wide side of the field to the left, so that you can run the third down play that you want. And just the way that you've been able to stack success on top of success on top of success, like your ability to play call and break down defenses and things like that, I think is second to none at the high school level. And the second thing is just being the leader that you are to these young men. All I can think about is at what point, and what I'm going to ask is your interest, or if you've ever thought about it, at what point does the next level, a college level, come down and say, hey, Coach Mueller, we want you running our offense? Because I've been around, obviously, UWL, I've been around Indiana State and things like that. And I feel like you have the ability to do that if it's something that you desire. And so my question is, have you ever thought about, if I'm trying to think about what's our guy, the fullback that's at Northern State right now, Division II, Schmidt.
Yeah,
Like if a Mike Schmidt comes calling, or a former teammate or something that does coach at the college level, if they come calling and say, "Hey, we'd like you to," obviously it's something you'd have to talk with Aaron and the family about. But you obviously have the mind to do it. You obviously have the leadership qualities, that solid foundation to lead young men, to make them better players and better people. Something that I think any program would want at any level. Have you ever thought about that? Is it something that interests you, or is the high school level where you feel like you fit in best?
Great question.
I was going to say to the fans, like,
Tough
I don't give them these
question.
questions. I feel bad kind of springing this on you. And if you want to
no.
hold
No,
off,
it's
but
good.
it's supposed to be a compliment.
Yeah,
I
no,
hope
I
that you
take it
take
that
it
way.
as such,
Oh,
because I think so
absolutely.
much of you as a coach and as a person that I would hate to lose you from Stewartville. I think it's one of the best things that's happened to Stewartville football. But I also don't want you to not potentially have opportunities that you deserve.
Yeah, no, I do take it as a compliment. I thank you so much that you're too kind. It's I'd be lying if I say it's something I had never thought about. Absolutely. I think all of us as professionals are looking to grow and be challenged and are wondering, what else can we do, right? And so for sure, it's something I've thought about, not just recently, but probably ever since I've started my career as a coach. Moving on to a next level, and what would it look like to be a college coach at that level. And I think that the hard part about coaching at the collegiate level is it's such not necessarily, well, I guess I don't know if a tough profession to get into is the right way to describe it, but I think there's a very kind of set, unique path to going about doing it. To coach at the high school level for a long time, and then to make that jump. Not that coaches aren't capable of doing it. It's just hard to kind of get in that pipeline that way. A lot of college coaches typically start their career as graduate assistants and things like that in programs and build relationships. This profession is much about building relationships as anything else. They have relationships with coaches and programs and things like that, and kind of grow that way, and eventually make their way to whatever level they're able to do. So in terms of like opportunities, to make that jump from where I'm at now to the college profession isn't necessarily as easy said as done, I guess you could say. At the same time as you kind of early on, you make that choice, where you're going to be and where you're going to go. And, Aaron and I, we were in North Carolina for a couple of years, and then kind of made our way back, here to Southeast Minnesota. And there wasn't a whole lot of college programs in the areas that we were living. And so, the high school level is where I had my opportunities. And then all of a sudden, 10 years later, you have 3 kids and a family, and you're established, right? And so it makes, all those decisions have more and more impact on more people now as time goes on. And so it makes that tougher, I think, from that standpoint as well. So certainly, it's something I've thought about, and would it be an opportunity I would consider if it came along? For sure.
As every coach probably, right?
As every coach, right? Yeah. But I think at the same time too, I've also, I believe wholeheartedly in, we talk about water in our program, right? And making the grass as green as possible where you are, where your feet are, right? Be where your feet are. And so it's really been my mission to make Stewartville football just a top of the line experience for our athletes. We talk a lot about with our kids. This isn't a typical high school football program that they get to be a part of, and I have a lot of people to thank for that and helping me deliver that experience to those kids. And so, right now my focus, and it always will be, until something else, comes up, is making, this high school football program the best it can be, for our kids and for our coaches. And I love, just the growth that we've had over going on to year 12 now, for me, that I've been here in this program. Love every minute of it, and will continue to enjoy doing it here, and making this, make this the big time, make it big time wherever you're at, I think is the point. So that's my focus right now,
Yeah.
and who knows what the future holds.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to making Stewartville football the best experience for our players, our coaches, the fans, and the community, and continue to grow and find success here. I as successful as we've been, there's we still got some unfinished business, I feel like, here in this program, and our theme this year is to step up.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of regular season success. In terms of on the field, we do a great job, I think, of building young men in our program, and we, as of late, have not had that postseason success that we all want to have, right? We do this because we're competitors and we love playing football, and results matter, and winning football games is still important. So, we have not gotten the job done in the postseason the way we all would have liked us to. So I think that's something that we want to continue to build and fight for, and have continue to find more success as we go through our season.
Yeah, the comment I loved is be where your feet are. That be, in terms of the grass, be where your feet are. I think that's really cool. Luckily we have you for this season. We're locked in, but the way that you pour all yourself into it. I think the other cool thing is just you're talking about building this program. I think it was just an awesome handoff going from, it's like our 4x400 relay team for girls in track and field. The way that the baton handed off from Coach Meyer to you, it just the program just keeps building, and I feel like we're way out in front and doing things the right way. I think the other thing, like you talked about, when decisions impact more than just you, I think you and I probably are on similar trajectories in that respect. In that, I had opportunities in terms of the athletic training world where I thought my dreams were in a certain, professional setting or whatever. And eventually they led to a career entirely different. And to your point, your dream may have changed to someday you may get to coach your boys. Like you might get to coach them in football or whatever they choose to do, and be able to see them grow up, and your daughter grow up and watch her play, and instead of being gone all the time. Maybe that's the dream. But I did want to make sure that we took a time to acknowledge your skill set and your potential, and that we have a lot of belief and confidence in what you do. So I am glad that you're the Gordon Ramsay of our kitchen, our program. You talked about the, last year. I think it's well acknowledged that we had a great regular season. We went undefeated, 8-0. First year in the Big Southeast District, came in as the new guys and just went to town. I mean, even that from first game, Mankato East, nobody knew what to think with the bigger school going up against them. Ran the table, even against Casamanteville, who ended up second in the state. We took care of business at Schaefer Field against them. Didn't get the postseason success that we would have liked. I think you alluded to that. Going into this year, you talked about stepping up. Where does that start? Where like the offseason, you talk about it, South Dakota State. Obviously, we lost a great group of seniors, but the offseason, I think we did a good, solid speed program. I'm sure you put together. I saw the videos on your Twitter account. I know you guys went to South Dakota State. I believe, is that where it starts, or?
Yeah, well, it's, I think really it, probably started on Sunday after our play.
Oh, sure.
Just in terms of, it was such a hard finish to last season. You talk about as you go through a year or through a football season, I think players and coaches alike enjoy the experience as much as anywhere. And we just, we had such a wonderful season last year to have the end come as abrupt as it did. Just we weren't ready to be done yet. Some teams and programs, depending on their season goes and things like that, it's like, we're ready for the end of the season. And that just was not the case for us, especially last year. And so it leaves that sour taste in your mouth, and it was really tough transitioning for me. It was probably as tough of a transition for me from ending regular season to off season as it's ever been, because we just had those expectations that things were going to continue to roll. And it's a great reminder that you can't take anything for granted, and if you don't show up on a particular day, things can be over in a heartbeat. So lesson learned for sure, how we finished last season. So as we rolled into that off season, it starts with our guys, number one, going in competing in whatever other sports that they play, because we talked about celebrating that, and so we love the fact that we have multiple 2-3 sport athletes in our program. And so a lot of those guys had a lot of success in their other sports that they played, and if they weren't doing that, then they were with us, at our Iron Tiger program through the winter. Usually that's a bigger group just because there's only, basketball and wrestling happen in the winter. So that was a big group of 25 or 30 guys that got after it over the winter. And then as we rolled into the spring, kind of the same thing, and guys just building themselves for whatever came next. When we hit summer, and we're more all together then, again, we had a great summer of preparation through our speed and power and athletic development stuff with Iron Tiger was great. We had a new strength and conditioning coordinator take over, Blake Hageman. Eric Pohl moved on to another role at OMC. And so he was a big part of kind of that performance program as well. And so Blake interned with us in the summer of 2021. So he wasn't necessarily a new face, but in terms of just a consistent guy being there, he kind of took over in the spring and through the summer. And so he's a young guy and excited and does a great job. Really kind of picked up right where Eric left off. And so it's been great working with him from a performance standpoint, and having him kind of go through that learning and growing as a sport performance coach. And he did a great job. And then in terms of our on the field stuff, we had our SDSU team camp that we attended, and we had 8 additional practices. We call them OTAs like they do in the NFL.
Sure.
Organized team activities is an easy way to refer them to as. So we had 8 of those this summer, along with a couple 7-on-7 sessions that we got to go up against some other teams. It was a great summer of just kind of that coming together, right, and figuring things out, some pieces. You have those new faces, and maybe some new position changes and things like that for everyone to feel out. Coaches, we're building those relationships with our guys and our team. And so I'm really proud of kind of our summer structure and organization and what we do to prepare for the season. I think we do it as well as anyone. And I think that always shows, we come out to start a season well prepared to kick things off. And again, that's credit to our players and our coaches committing to that process and preparing for when the season starts. And so it was no different this summer. Did a nice job piecing those things together. We graduated a ton of talented kids from last year, had a lot of returning experience and talent coming back. So that was exciting to kind of build around, and then some new faces, that junior class, this year's junior class coming up. They had an undefeated JV year. And another year of growth and development for those kids as athletes. And so we're excited for, that group to kind of step up now this year and fill in some of those roles. Like you said, just reloading, those spots and getting ready for this season. So it's been a great 9 months of preparation.
Yeah.
A lot of time in where, you talk about all the time in season, and that is significant. But it's really 9 months of, cooking.
Yeah.
And preparing
chopping the ingredients,
right, and putting
right.
all those pieces together, getting it just right, so that when we hit the field September 2nd, I think it is, that product is ready to roll.
Yeah. You talked about the continuity. I know we had a change with Eric Pohl moving on and a new strength and conditioning coach. In terms of the coaching staff, I look at that coaching staff and you've talked about it, and I think I recognize it the more that I talk to you on how important they are to the overall program success, all the way through the levels. Dylan Smallwood, I believe he worked with quarterbacks last year, and the job that he did with Eli Clavetter and the year that kid had. And you talk about, Coach Pops and Coach May, your special teams unit had more than a handful of game altering plays, whether it be returns for touchdowns, whether it be punt blocks in the end zone. You talk about Alan May last year. I know you said he's one of the best all around coaches, wide receivers, Alex Hayne on the defensive side of the ball, Ramsey's there, Coach Hoth is there, just incredible staff. Do you bring a lot of that same core back with you this year? Are there going to be any new faces or anybody that had to move on for whatever reason?
Yeah, no, that's an exciting thing for our program too, is that we'll have the same staff back again for another year, and that consistency with the staff, I think, is absolutely huge in terms of the success of a program on the field on a Friday night. we've had a basically the same staff now going back till 2019.
Mm-hmm.
It's been fairly unchanged, and I bias because it's our staff that we're a part of, but truly think it's as good of a high school staff as there is in the state. And I will say it till I'm blue in the face, but I think the number one resource we can give athletes to find success or be successful in their sport is quality coaches.
Yeah.
If we aren't putting a quality coach in front of them on a daily basis, how can we expect them to grow and develop and find success, on the field? And so I put a premium on hiring not just the best coach from an X's and O's standpoint too, but just quality men in front of our players and athletes that are role models that they can look up to, both on and off the field. And so we're so lucky to have the staff that we have, and then to have just that continuity and consistency from year to year, just in terms of how they coach and the language that they use within their position groups and how they coach the stuff, kind of our unique language to our program.
And the energy.
And the
a lot of
energy,
people bring energy.
It just
Pain,
it stays
May,
consistent, across the board. So we see that not just success at our varsity level, but then at our JV level, at our 9th grade level, at our middle school level.
Right.
We're able to find consistent success at all those levels because the quality of coaching is so high across the board, on top of then just the talented athletes obviously that we're able to put on the field. So when you put all those things together, it's been huge. Just the relationships between our staff is great. I love coming to work every day with these guys. They're some of my closest friends now, and I think then our players would say the same thing. They love coming to practice and getting coached by our coaches. And that's huge, because we talk about, I want Stewartville football to be the best part of our athletes' day. I want it to be the best experience of their high school career. And I'll tell them that, up front, we're going to create an unforgettable experience for you guys. I want this to be the best part of your day. And now we're, we hold our coaches hold ourselves accountable for that, then, to make sure we bring that energy and that enthusiasm, that excitement, and that level of expertise every day to find success, have fun, and enjoy what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm glad you talked about that relationship within the coaching staff, because I kind of look at your coaching staff almost like parents to kids. If the kids see that you're not all on the same page, that there's either fractures within it, or this coach doesn't get along with this coach. And I've gotten the opportunity to work with several different high schools. When I was going back to ultrasound school, I was kind of afloat. I went to whatever game they assigned me. And so I was on a lot of different sidelines. And you could see sometimes there was, people that might not have gotten along. And I haven't ever seen that on your staff. It feels like you're one cohesive unit. So the players get that single message that it doesn't matter who I go talk to, that the same core principles that guide this program are going to be communicated to me. And I think that's a really, it's an attribute that is really powerful when it's there. And I think that's what I see most with your coaches in terms of, getting together to break down film, or you guys do seem like actual natural friends. It's not forced. Like, you guys enjoy being around each other. And so when the players see that it's coming from one unit, I think that just brings everything together. And I think that's probably my favorite thing about your coaching staff, other than they're a bunch of funny guys that I get to talk to, every now and then.
Right. No, 100%. That's, we love coming to work every day with each other, and then we spend a significant amount of time together outside of coaching too. So we just enjoy each other's company, and it makes that experience all the better then because of it.
I think, we've talked about the offseason a little bit, talked about the coaches, but really what a lot of people are here for is what's the recipe that's going on the field? I do know personally, when I'm starting to try to prepare for games, this year is actually one of my tougher years, because there are a few areas, I'd really love to hear about. Obviously, you can start on the offensive or defensive side, but one of the biggest questions is, we've always had kind of the answer to who's next at the quarterback position. We consider it the most important position on the football field. We went from Aaron Quant to AJ Quant to Isaac Busson to Will Cheddar to Eli Clavetter, who had just an outstanding year. And unfortunately, we lose him to graduation. I do know there's a couple capable, you talk about Aiden Helder, you probably talk about Wangen. But there's certain positions that that have some question marks. And I'm sure it's an open competition. You love guys to compete, and you're going to put the best guy out there to succeed. Where do you see in terms of your let's start with offense, because that's your baby.
Yep. Yeah,
Alex, Coach Hain can wait this year.
I think usually we
got
start
last
with
year.
defense to get them kudos.
Yeah.
All right, so we can start offensive side. Yeah. So at the kind of that leadership position, our quarterback spot, like you mentioned, coming into the year, we had two, high quality candidates.
Yeah.
Either kid, would have done a great job in that spot. Both Aiden Helder, who played our JV quarterback last year, and Parker Wangen, who was our 9th grade quarterback last year. I think everyone saw their talents on the basketball court this past winter, like starters or significant players.
Absolutely.
On that success. Coming into this year, we basically had an open quarterback competition between those two guys through the summer. And those guys did everything, that was asked of them. They competed at a high level. They performed at a high level. Just really proud of both of those guys for the way they handled it. Both very mature athletes, for their ages. Just had a great demeanor about them every day when they came to work. And so it was tough. We went through the summer, and then those guys got pretty equal reps all the way through. But we wanted to make a decision before preseason camp started, because we wanted that consistent face kind of leading the team. I don't necessarily like playing two quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Some programs do, and they have success with it. I just, for whatever reason, don't really like it. Like having one guy kind of as the face of that we're working with, and also just from a development standpoint, both of those guys have not really had any significant varsity football experience. And so they both were going to be, pretty green when it came to reps and the speed of the game and that kind of thing. So whoever it was going to be needed time and needed reps to really be ready for week one. So I wanted to make sure we had one guy that was getting a significant amount of those reps to continue to get prepared. And so Aiden Helder is going to be our starting quarterback this fall. He earned that spot, and we're probably going to have the best backup quarterback in the district with Parker. But kind of I think the cool, unique thing about it, and how we're kind of choosing to view it as, and I had a conversation with both those guys, and Parker did again, I think he just got his driver's license, so he's 16 years old, but just mature beyond his years and handled the situation very, very well. It's like kind of adding a free agent before the season starts, because here you got kind of a freak athlete in Parker Wangen that all of a sudden now maybe isn't going to be playing as much at the quarterback position, but can pretty much play anywhere else we want him to, as a wide receiver or as a safety. And so we're looking at working him in at a couple other position groups, and just create more depth and more talent to be able to really have both of those guys on the field potentially at the same time. So kind of a win-win scenario for us. We got Aiden, who, like I said, earned that QB spot and is going to be a talented kid for us here this year. And Parker Wangen, playing somewhere on the offense or defensive side, and we're kind of he's relearning some of those spots. On the offensive side, it's been pretty easy for him just as a quarterback, very in tune with concepts for wide receivers and things like that, and where they align and what their job is, just because he's very closely tied to that at the quarterback position. So he's been doing great here these first week or two, learning that spot. Has not played as much defense the last year or two. I know he didn't really play much defense as a 9th grader, just focused on the quarterback position, but it's picking it up very quickly. A smart, talented athlete like him has done a great job learning that spot. And so it will take him on both sides of the ball, whether he's a receiver or safety, a couple weeks just to get comfortable. But as soon as he does, boy, we all know how athletic he is. Now that those attributes can just take over and allow him to, I think, just exponentially grow as a football player in those other spots. So we're excited for both of those guys this year.
Yeah, when we go on to the next position, probably one of our most dynamic playmakers that comes back, the whole kitchen sink, right? Owen Sickink comes back. The guy can do it all. He can run. He can catch a ball out of the backfield. Whatever you need out of him. A little bit different running style, different level of play in terms of from Alex Wood, that kind of tough shoulder down running to Owen Sickink, a little bit more shifty. I believe we also have Braden Nelson coming back. Can you talk to me about the running backs in the room?
Yeah, so that's going to be, like you said, Owen is going to lead the way on that and be as dynamic, of an athlete on the offensive side as we've had out there in a while. You're going to see him not just at that super back spot, we call it, kind of that tailback position, but he's going to be all over the field. He's had, the last 2 years been one of our starting H-backs, where we utilize him in both the run and the pass game. And so he's still gonna, you'll see him playing that position. And we've even talked about splitting him out as a wide receiver at times too. Mm-hmm. He's as fast of a kid as we have in our program, and great hands and great ball skills. He's made his hay offensively catching the football more than running the football up to this point. So really can do it all. And so you're going to see him at multiple spots around the field. And we feel like, teams know about him. He's our number one weapon coming back. And so if we can move him around a little bit and, they don't always know where he's going to line up, it helps make our offense a little bit tougher to stop. And we got the other guys around him now that are talented too, that can go make plays, because a defense is worried about where's Owen and what he's doing. Yeah. It's going to open up a lot of things for other guys. So, excited to build a lot of our offense around him, and then complementing him in the backfield. Braden Nelson, you mentioned, got a significant number of carries at the varsity level last year too, with some injuries to Owen and to Alex Wood last year. And so, big dude, downhill running style. I'm so excited for him this year to get you'll see him get a significant number of carries, especially when Owen is playing an H-back or out as a wide receiver. He'll be in there a ton. And then another name that was a JV running back for us last year, Taron Conlon. Mm-hmm. We'll get some carries back there too. Again, both those guys more kind of a downhill, hard-nosed running style, complements Owens more out in space, shiftiness, explosiveness, fast twitch type player. So we got a good combination of those guys. And then, one guy that would have been back there, really unfortunate, that had an injury, we won't have him this year, is Jack Buntrock. And
our sprinter from the track.
So that's a huge bummer for us, because Jack. Shoot. Can't say enough good things about Jack, just in terms of, his work ethic and his consistency, and just doing everything right, and really, really growing and developing as a football player. He didn't start playing football, and he can correct me if I'm wrong here, until he was a freshman in high school. So he's only going on like year 3 of football for him, but just talented athletically with his speed and stuff like that. And so it was him figuring out how to apply that to the sport of football. Mm-hmm. And just had an outstanding year at the JV level as a sophomore last year, kind of as a running back and H-back for us. And so we were looking for him to kind of be that flex type player, doing some different things for us, and just adding depth, to that backfield. And he unfortunately had a knee injury that required surgery this summer. And so he will be out of commission this year. So, kind of a bummer we won't have him, but want to make sure I give him a shout out, because he more than deserves it.
Yeah, something about Owen Sickink. You talked about he's made his hay catching the ball, and you're exactly right. One of the only players that I've seen where he almost has equal receiving and rushing yards. Last year, 47 carries, 304 yards, 4 touchdowns, 33 catches, 392 yards, 7 touchdowns. One of the games I remember a couple of years ago when he was a sophomore, Will Cheddar at Cannon Falls hits Sickink in stride down the sideline. And man, he took off, and that was his kind of coming out party there against Cannon Falls. And then last year, I think we just appreciate the skill set that he brings, and hopefully those other coaches that know about him, it isn't a result of somebody making videos and bragging about him all the time.
Definitely
that under wraps. I tell
definitely not. Yeah, just as play on the field.
What about the receivers? I know we got an athletic core of junior guys, tall, athletic, can jump. Who's Helder going to be throwing the ball to this year?
Yeah, so we got probably as deep of a receiving core as we've had. It's going to be a group of guys that don't have a ton of experience in terms of on the field at the receiver spot. They've played a lot of it at the JV level. And like you said, a lot of dynamic athletes out there. And so it's going to be, and we'll see, how the year plays out here in the first couple of weeks. And we might have some guys, separate themselves a little bit from others, but we really won't know that until we start playing games. So kind of going into the year a little bit, it's going to be kind of a by committee group of guys. We have, 5 or 6 different dudes that we feel really comfortable putting out on the field right now, just from an assignment standpoint, knowing what they're doing, where they're supposed to be, so they can execute at a high level, and then just talented receivers in space, athletes go up and catch the ball well, and compete out there, and again make our offense really dynamic, because not only do you have to worry about Owen coming out of the backfield or what he's doing, now we got multiple athletes, receivers in space that you got to worry about, because if you're not, then they're going to hurt you too. So seniors coming back, we got Isaac Larson and Zach Schreiber and Ian Hoot, 3 guys that played a lot more on the defensive side last year. Isaac Larson as a safety and Zach Schreiber as a corner. Talk about them on the defensive side too, but are all explosive athletes, good ball skills, and again, just bring that kind of that senior leadership and experience, having played varsity football. So those 3 guys you'll see on the field for sure, and then 2 other guys kind of in that class behind them. Henry Cheddar, who played a good number of varsity reps last year, had a big explosive touchdown there toward the end of the season, and really just grew last year as a sophomore. So we're looking for him to step in this year and play a pretty significant role for us at the wide receiver spot. He just continues to grow, and develop as an athlete, and so we're excited to see him out there. And then another guy is Tegan Malone. Again, all these both of those guys,
6'3", 6'4",
right,
yeah,
talented, long, athletic. We saw their talents, on the basketball court last winter, and the success that they had out there, and now just excited to harness that athleticism and that length out here as wide receivers. And then kind of our, that hybrid position that Owen plays a lot at H-back, that they do some receiver for us and they do some, running back stuff for us. Another guy, again, we saw him a little bit, but played mostly on the defensive side, but just has a ton of confidence now as a junior, is going to be Carter Miller. And so we talked about all those other, skilled athletes, and then you add Carter Miller to that mix, who's going to be playing a lot of that H-back position this year. So I think he's going to be, maybe kind of one of your breakout candidates offensively here, just because so much attention is going to be drawn to Owen. We talked about the significance of that H-back position in our offense. Elton Meyer, Owen, the last 2 years, and how much they've done, in the pass game and things like that. That's going to be Carter Miller for us this year. And so he's going to do a great job there. And then one other guy who we made a slight position change and has really, really improved in this spot is Evan Riggin. He had been more of a tight end the last year or two. We had a lot of tight end. That tight end depth chart was getting pretty long. And as dynamic of an athlete as Carter Miller is, not a huge kid necessarily. So we needed a guy with some size and mass there that we can run behind a little bit. And so Evan brings an athletic piece to that. He runs really well, catches the ball really well, but then just great size and strength that we can put in the backfield and use him on some of our lead on some of our run plays on the ground as well. So he's great because he's a really versatile player for us that can do a lot of different things. So kind of a mix of those guys. I mentioned Parker Wangan is too, kind of adding him to that receiver depth chart, and he's still growing in that spot. But it's a lot of weapons that we can use on the field, and so I think you'll really see that group of guys really grow and improve as the year goes on, just because they don't have a ton of experience yet, but they have a great skill set that will allow them just to kind of exponentially grow as the season goes on.
Yeah, every time I hear that name, Evan Riggin, I go back to, I think it was a John Marshall game. I'm trying to think of which game he had the interception on. And I replayed the highlight call that I had. And to be honest with you, because we were cycling in so many different players, I think when I saw the play, I didn't know who it was at first. Right. So I yelled out, "Are you kidding?" And I was looking at the roster to see what number it was. Evan Riggin. I was like, I didn't even mean for that to
right. It's like, oh wow,
rhyme like that, but it was perfect. So great family. His mom and dad actually coached Natalie in soccer this last year. Just really great coaches, great people. So good to hear him. Tight end, you talked about that depth chart. You got to be happy to have Colton Parker coming back. What an outstanding year he had last year as a junior. Where will we see it? That is Garth Cheddar still coaching tight ends?
Garth still takes our tight end.
Who's in his room?
So that's been huge to have him. Yeah, have that. We had not had that that designated coach for that group, and it's such an important role in our offense again too, just because those tight ends got to do so many different things on the field, and they're responsible in the run game and in the pass game. We move them around with all of our formations and stuff like that, so it's a really tough position. And so we got Colton Parker coming back, which is huge, just to have that experience in that role, number one, and then just his athletic ability and his talent too, as a pass catcher, as a blocker. Again, makes our offense really dynamic because we can get in and out of multiple sets and formations with him on the field and not have to necessarily change personnel, and things like that. So Colton Parker will kind of come back as our returning starter there. And then two guys that have been working in and again, doing a great job and will provide a lot of depth there just because of how much Colton Parker was probably on the field as many snaps as any player we had last year as a junior.
Him and Alex Larson, right?
Yeah, really didn't come off the field. And so anticipating the same out of him this year. And so need to have some depth behind him to be able to give him breaks and things like that throughout the course of the game. Drew Jelinek coming back. He's going to be a junior, was our JV tight end last year. He did a great job last year, and he's grown a ton in this had a great offseason in terms of his development from a speed and strength standpoint, and he's still kind of learning the ins and outs of our offense at the varsity level. But excited for him to add some depth there. Really, really long and competes at a high level, so he's going to be a good one. And then another guy who's kind of a freak physically, but just still green in terms of playing varsity football, and that's Grayson Schneider. He's about as impressive of a dude out on the field as we'll have this year. Looking at him, and he again is like just getting his driver's license, which is nuts to me that you can look like that when you're 15.
The wrestler too, isn't he?
Wrestled last year.
Incredible size.
Yep. And so excited again for him. It's going to be a year of learning that position and the ins and outs of doing it at the varsity level. He's gonna have more significant time on the defensive side, but he does add some depth there. Will be in as part of our Moose package, when we get that on the field, and so we can put out a lot of explosive physical athletes, and he's one of them.
Awesome. And then probably my favorite group, just because they don't get enough love there. We talk about quarterback being probably one of the most important positions in terms of position group. I think you'd probably agree that the big cats up front, we don't make plow horses, we make race horses, right?
Race horses.
Is that what it is?
That's right. Yes. Race horses, not plow horses.
I'm going to tell you right now, I told you in season 1, he's actually on Coach Razzle's all fantasy team. There is no player I'm more excited to watch on the field. Owen Sinkick's probably up there. But number one, there's something cool about a guy running 15, 20 yards downfield and absolutely pancaking some poor soul that's not expecting it. Yeah. Peyton Byrne, he's got that animal, just that nasty streak to him. I cannot wait to watch him.
He is. He's a unique breed, just for so many reasons, from his, just his size and talent on the field, but the energy that he brings, the way he plays, the way he leads, just getting that. We needed a guy. We always need a guy to rally around and kind of lead that group, and he's going to be that guy this year, just with the success, obviously, and experience that he has coming back. But the way he conducts himself and the way he plays will really be one of the top leaders on our team this year. But yeah, Peyton Byrne will come back, return as our left tackle. Just a freak physically, the way he moves and runs for his size. So it's going to be, protecting that blind side for Aiden, but then just also equally dominant in the run game. We'll pull him and move him in a lot of our run schemes. We'll get him out on the edge in our screen stuff. And so when we talk about like a guy like Owen Sicking being versatile in how we move him around and what we can do because of him on the field, same thing with Peyton Byrne. He's as versatile of an offensive lineman as we've had, and we can do so many different things in our offense because of the talents that he has and the things that he can do. So he's going to be, like you said, he's going to be as fun to watch. You could just sit down and watch film and watch him play. Yeah. Most people want to, watch the skill guys and the plays they make, but as a true coach and fan of football, you could just hone in on him and have a lot of fun watching him play.
There was a play last year. I remember he absolutely smoked a guy from across the field, and he went across him like a slip and slide as he nailed him and just kept flying. Fun to watch.
Yeah, just a guy that.
And on Coach Razzle's team, he's so darn athletic at that tackle position. He'll be coming out doing this, Coach, to the ref. 76 is eligible, or whatever number eligible. He is.
Right. Wow, he's already got in my ear about like tackle eligible and throwback and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what we can do.
You got John Becker coming back, right? Who else?
So we got John Becker coming back. As he'll return as the center. Locking down, kind of guiding or leading the way there, making our calls at the line of scrimmage. Extremely intelligent football player. Talk about a guy who had a great offseason, didn't miss a day through the winter, went and, dominated on the golf course of all places. We have probably the best, and we'll talk about the other guy too, but go figure, we have two elite golfers on our offensive line all places, right? Which is wild. But John Becker is going to be a stud there in the middle. Probably again, a guy that not a lot of people know about, but is going to be one of the better linemen, not just on our team, but in our district this year. So he's going to be a stud. So excited for him to come back. And then we mentioned the other golfer kind of locking down the right edge. And that's
Nighty night,
Caleb Jansen.
Two ends.
Talk about probably two guys that, between him and Peyton, do not lack in energy and confidence in their abilities by any means. Which is, I mean that as a huge compliment to them. Caleb Jansen is such a fun, football player to watch play the game. He plays with so much enthusiasm and passion. He's flying around the field at every single play. And so to have, we talk about kind of a freak that Peyton is, his size and length. Caleb Jansen is equally impressive to look at and on the field, and just watch the way he moves and how fluid of an athlete is that he is. And just
we saw it at linebacker last year with him.
Saw it at linebacker, yeah. And so it just makes us so versatile as an offense that we can do so many different things. He's great in the run game, in the pass protection, out on screens, pulling. In our run game. It's gonna be pretty awesome to watch him this year.
So we talked about the athleticism of Byrne on the one tackle, and we talked about Jansen on the interior line. Where do you see who's going to fit in there with Becker?
Yeah. So again, when we talk about our offensive line, big cats for sure. We have, which is again crazy to think, but two of the fastest players on our team playing at the guard position, which is wild too. Wow. So Jamie Hart is going to be kind of one of our.
Jamie, he took someone's soul heart.
Yes, that's the one. So he's going to be taking souls at the line of scrimmage on a regular basis here this year. Yeah. He's going to be one of those guards this year. Another returning guy from last year, Drew Anderson, who was a returning honorable mention all conference kid. Played more on the defensive line last year, and so we're excited to have him back on that side, but we'll step into a more significant role at the guard spot here this year. So we're excited to have his talent and his athleticism there at that spot. And then a couple other guys. Well, one guy who we lost him for a year and we got him back in the fold. And again, a name that no one knows about, but is again going to be an absolute freak, is Tor Lunas. Who's back, and so also, we'll talk about him.
Went to state in two different events,
right? And shot and disc, and just talk about his athleticism and power that he has, and to be able to utilize his talents on the offensive line is going to be pretty awesome. So he'll be a guy that you see playing at guard quite a bit this year. And then another guy who I have a special spot in my heart for him, because he just continues to show up and work hard and be consistent. And I think finally, kind of this year, his senior year, he's going to have his opportunities, and that's Bryant Rindles. The undersized kid, but has a big heart and works super hard. And so we're going to be able to utilize him for sure, just adding that depth to that offensive line, because a lot of those same names that we just talked about, you're going to see them consistently on the field on the defense as well. And so we're going to need that depth at the offensive line with those guys. So it's a great group. We have 6-7 different guys that we feel comfortable putting out there, which is awesome. And Coach Nats, does a great job with that group. They call themselves the Dogs.
Yeah.
And so they embody that dog mentality and come to work every day and work hard and do all the dirty work. And like I said, probably the most, quarterback's the single most important individual position, but in terms of position group, offensive line across the board for me, that's huge. And this is going to be one of the better ones, that we've put together in a while. So it's going to be fun watching them go out and compete and dominate the line of scrimmage this year.
I would imagine Byrne was probably in the ear of Lunas all track and field season saying, you got to come back out for football. We got to team up.
Oh yeah. Well, him and everybody else basically.
Yeah. Right.
Have you seen, you looked in the mirror? Come on and play football because you're going to be good. So
that's awesome. And you said a lot of those guys are going to be moving over to the defensive line, which is pretty normal for our squad. We have just such talented front seven. Anybody else that specifically would be playing defensive line, or is it a lot of the guys that?
It's a lot of those same guys, across the board. We're going to be able to roll out. Coach Joey Strike is our D-line coach. We were joking the other day. It's going to be like line change in hockey. We're going to have 4 guys out there. They're going to go max effort, full speed for 3 plays, and we're going to roll the next line out. And the second line is going to be just as good as the first line. So we're going to really be able to roll through a significant number of guys on that defensive line to win that line of scrimmage and make it so much easier for the guys behind them than to run and play fast and make plays. So yeah, it's a lot of those same names, in our interior D tackle spots, guys like Peyton Byrne, John Becker, Bryant Rindles, Drew Anderson, 2 guys that I didn't mention on the offensive line who will work and play there. They'll probably get a little bit more time on the defensive side, and that's Brady Holt, who's going to be a senior this year, played a ton for us last year. He had a small knee injury this summer as well, unfortunately, but something that he's going to be able to come back from. So you won't see him on the field for the first probably half of the season, but we're hoping to have him back midway through there, as long as that rehab process goes well. So that'll be a big add when we get him back on the field. Just from a size and explosive standpoint. And then another guy that's going to be a junior, Anthony Nelson, who again just kind of works super hard and does everything the right way and is consistent. And so he's going to add some depth there for our line as well. And then playing our defensive ends, mentioned Jamie Hart already. Ended up playing a lot as we went into the season last year, as he really grew and developed and became explosive off that edge. So he's going to be one guy. Evan Reagan, mentioned him already. Grayson Snyder, I talked about him as a tight end. He's going to be more just a kind of a backup at that spot on the offensive side, but defensively, you're going to see him on the field a ton. Him and Tor Lunas are, as fast and explosive and strong of the guys as we have in our team. And so really just locking down the edge of our defense are going to be those guys. And then Drew Jelinek, I mentioned at the tight end spot, adds depth for us at the DN spot, as well as a younger guy who's going to be kind of going back and forth between JV and varsity. But I think midway through the year, probably we're going to be mentioning his name a little bit more, kind of like we did with Jamie Hart last year, and that's Lincoln Doobie. A guy who just works super hard and just needs some more time and reps to grow as a player. And he's only a sophomore, but he's going to be really, really good down the road for us. So it's an outstanding group of 8 to 10 guys that we can really roll through that defensive front and dominate the line of scrimmage with.
That's awesome. One thing I was thinking about with Anthony Nelson, he's a wrestler as well. And something I liked about him is I broadcasted a few wrestling meets, but you talk about a good kid. He came up each wrestling meet and just said, "Hey, thanks, Mr. Peterson, for broadcasting." I was like, "Yeah, don't ever call me Mr. Peterson." But thanks for saying something. Good kid. How about your linebacking core? I always love to see your linebacking core back from the days of Jordan Johnson and Brandon Hoth and Kruko. And I mean, we could go on and on. Right? Last year, Parker Clavetter. Who are we going to see back in roam in the middle of the field, I guess?
Right, and that's not as deep of a, if there's an area where we are, a little shorter on depth, it's going to be that linebacker position this year probably. We have some talented JV kids that play there, and in time, they may be ready to go. But we're going to have probably 4 to 5 guys that we kind of feel comfortable right now putting on the field at those linebacker spots. So starting in the middle, again, crazy to think that he can move the body the way he does, but Caleb Jansen is going to stay at that linebacker spot, and just whether it's in the box, downhill. Filling gaps there, and then be able to run sideline to sideline. Just his, the other thing that is going to really stand out to people as they watch him play more is just his football IQ and how smart of a player he is. I went, we had our last JV game of the year last year. We played at Mayo, and it was it had to be on a Saturday at the end of the year. It was like a fill-in game that we had to add in the schedule, and I think it was Coach Mueller couldn't be there because of the schedule conflict or whatever. And so I went to help Coach Conger in that game, and had not really seen Caleb, play a ton on the field. And I was so blown away by just how comfortable he was, like directing traffic and getting guys lined up, and just a quarterback of that defense out there.
Yeah.
So affectionately known as Zippy.
Zippy.
So yeah. So you hear Zippy being thrown around. That's who everyone's.
I wonder where that came from.
Yeah, just the Homestead.
Yeah, the Homestead. Sure.
But no, that's actually probably a good question for Angie and Jamie, or we can get Cole on and figure that one out.
There you go.
I don't know the actual origin of that.
Sure.
Thing, but we all call him Zippy.
Yeah.
So, and then next to him, kind of our returning guy. Who has been playing there for 2 years now, is Colton Parker. We talked a lot about him too already, but having Zippy play that kind of that Mike linebacker spot, it frees Colton up a little bit more. He's going to play more of our will linebacker this year, which I think better suits his skill set, and being able to run and freed up a little bit more off the edge rather than on the inside. And you'll see Colton playing some inside, some Mike linebacker as well, as we need to give guys breaks and things like that through a game. Our will linebacker and Mike linebacker spot are pretty similar. But if you see those two guys on the field at the same time quite a bit, that's kind of where they'll be at. So it'd be great to have Colton back out there from a leadership standpoint, and all the experience and game reps that he's had over the last 2 years. It'll be fun to watch him his senior year. We've got to replace the defensive player of the year. Parker Clovetter at that Sam linebacker spot, and that's such a huge position in our defense as well, just from a versatility standpoint, kind of playing as that hybrid type player, between like a linebacker safety type guy that has to be great in coverage and really good on the edge and physical at the point of attack in the run game. Parker did all those things so well last year, so that's going to be a new face in there, but we're excited about the two guys that have been working in that spot. Number one is Ian Hoot. Who just plays really physical out there on the edge. Again, very athletic, great speed for us out there. So he's had a great summer, and so looking forward to seeing him out there. And then the other guy that you'll see out there is Tegan Malone.
Oh wow.
Who, you're looking at him, you're like, oh, what do you play, like safety or
safety,
like you wouldn't assume
Yeah.
A linebacker, but he is so instinctual. Was probably. So last year he won Scout Team Player of the Year for us, and we have that usually whoever that kid is winning that ends up being a pretty good football player for us.
Sure.
I feel like we have a pretty good beat on when guys are making plays consistently against our varsity team. They're probably going to end up being pretty good, and he probably had. He picked off Eli Clovetter more than Eli would care to admit during practice last year during the week. And so excited to watch him out there on the edge playing in space. Again, really, really smart football player, plays with great instincts and leverage. Is not going to be the biggest guy out there in space, but plays a lot bigger, I think, than he is. And he's actually had, he's grown a ton this summer too. So we actually, I think Mr. Malone got him eating a little bit more maybe, and growing and hit a growth sport, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So he's filled out quite a bit, and so excited to watch him compete out there. And so you'll see him on the defensive side quite a bit Ian Ian will play. You'll see him kind of slide and kick inside at that will linebacker spot sometimes if Colton needs a break, and then Tegan playing the Sam. So all four of those guys are very versatile, and we feel comfortable kind of moving them in and out of a couple different spots, just depending. We'll basically 3 of them will be on the field at any given time.
Sure.
And so the nice part about that is they're smart enough and talented enough that we can roll through any mix of those guys on the field. And then one other guy too that'll add some depth there. I mentioned him on offense, but that's Taron Conlon.
Okay.
And so he'll add some depth there too to that will linebacker spot when we need him during the game. So excited for that group of guys. Like I said, it's not a ton of depth there, but really talented kids, and they're gonna have a great season.
I'd imagine Evan Riggin probably in that rotation as well. You think?
Evan plays the D end.
End. Okay.
Okay. Yep. So he's playing on the edge.
Trying to think of where he made that interception last year.
Yeah, he came from the D line.
Oh, he
was
did.
Like on a screen pass. It was he tipped it. He made it. It was on a pass rush.
Yeah.
And he got his hand up, tipped it to himself essentially,
Sure.
and made some spinning acrobatic catch and came up with it. So
all the more impressive then.
Yes, you bet.
Speaking of interceptions, hopefully this crowd that you're going to mention next has just a ton of them, because I get jacked up when we get interceptions, especially if they have a chance to take it to the house. Defense turns to offense. Who are the guys going to be roaming the backfield, shutting down the passing game?
Right, yeah, in that defensive secondary. So we return a good amount of experience on the back end there this year. So out at the corner spot, Carter Mueller coming back is going to be just a lockdown corner there on the edge, and had a great year as only a sophomore last year. And so the big thing that he's just really grown in is that confidence and that belief in himself. I think that he can compete at a high level at the varsity on a Friday night. So he was already extremely talented, just gifted athletically. And he went through some growing pains a little bit last year at times, but did an outstanding job, stepping in as only a sophomore, playing, starting, level reps last year. And so to have that experience coming back this year, he's just going to be an absolute stud out there on the edge for us. And then beside him, Zach Schreiber, who'll be a senior, this year. We talked about him as a wide receiver. He played significant, really him and Carter Miller and Cole Jansen were kind of our 3 guys that played significant corner reps last year. So he brings a lot of experience coming back this year too. Really good length and physicality there on the edge, and good speed at the corner spot. So we're lucky to have those 2 guys. Those will kind of be the starters going into the year, and then 2 other guys that'll just add some depth to that position is Cameron N., who returns as a senior this year, and another guy who's just kind of gradually improved year to year. Played mostly JV last year, and so excited to get him some opportunities on varsity this year.
I want to say he's a hurdler on our track team,
yeah,
isn't he?
hurdler. Yep. So good speed.
Yeah.
Really, great looking kid physically too.
Yeah.
Really good size and length and speed. And so he's grown in
Nice.
football specific skills
Sure.
over the last couple of years, and so he'll be able to be out there a little bit along with the other guy will be Charlie Wood.
Okay.
Who will be a junior this year, and so was a JV receiver DB last year, and so he's going to kind of step into his first varsity experience this year, and he's had a great summer of really improving, and so we feel comfortable putting any of those guys on the field this year out on the edge. So at the safety spot, then kind of playing there in the middle of the field, return with some experience. We got Henry Cheddar coming back. He played a little bit there last year as a sophomore. Got some valuable experience, and so he's looked great so far this summer. Just really does a great job. Has great ball skills and great instincts, and it makes it really versatile with our defense. He'll kind of play that strong safety position where sometimes he'll be kind of in the back end, and then we can walk him down, closer to the line of scrimmage as more of an outside linebacker type kid. So he'll be a versatile guy for us there. And then also Isaac Larson, returning from last year, played a ton as a junior, as more of that kind of that free safety position, covering the middle of the field. Has really good length and a lot of experience coming back from last year. So looking for him to take a big step up this year. He was, new to the position or to varsity football last year. So now to bring that experience back and just kind of the feel and the understanding for speed of the game and from a leadership standpoint, it'll be great to have him back. A guy that we can probably put anywhere in the defensive secondary, and he's going to be successful as Owen Sickink. And so you'll see him play a little bit more defense this year than he did, in years past. I don't know that we'll throw him out there as a starter necessarily, but, a guy will bring in passing downs and situations to lock whoever down that we need to, or to play over the top. Just use his speed, athleticism, great baseball player out, and can track balls down and things like that. So he'll be really talented guy that we can kind of add to that mix. And then two younger guys that have been working in there. And again, will grow and improve a ton, I think, just exponentially with experience. One, I mentioned Parker Wangan right at the beginning, kind of playing that safety spot now, and has not played a ton of that, but just in terms of, again, when you talk about, we did our fantasy draft, but a guy, really built like a Nick Stonkey or a Carter Grosky with their length and athleticism that can cover the whole field. I'm really excited for the potential of him at that spot. And then another guy too, kind of built similarly, is a young guy, Jace Klug, who again, super high football IQ. So impressed with how quickly he has picked up just our defensive calls and assignments. We've actually he's been practicing with the varsity at the receiver spot as well. Playing receiver in our offense is no easy task when it comes to assignment, alignment, and all the things we do offensively. And so just very impressed with how quickly he has picked that up, especially as a sophomore. Typically, that's the limiting factor for a lot of those young guys, is just understanding where to go, what to do. And he's got that locked down already. So he's really able to play fast because he knows what's going on already. So really high football IQ, excited for his growth as he gets valuable reps this year as a sophomore. And I think a guy that you'll see, get on the field more and more as the year goes on, just because he's going to grow so quickly in those spots. So, it's a great group of kids, super competitive, really athletic, love being with them every day. And, it's a lot to look forward to here this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Parker Wong, and you said he can kind of do it all. He'll probably be our kicker and punter again this year. For the brand.
A guy that makes 30 plus extra points and averages, 35 to 40 yards a punt as a freshman.
Right.
Pretty nice weapon to have there in our kicking game. Obviously, Coach Pops and Coach May are super pumped to have him back in the kicking game.
Absolutely.
And so he'll be very talented.
Season starts out Friday night, September 2nd, on the road against Mankato East. I'm sure they're going to have a target on your back with beating them in the opening game last season, and then they ran off they had quite a run. Their coach actually shared District Coach of the Year for you, so they must not have counted mine, because that would have been a tiebreaker in your favor. But they have lost quite a few guys. Every all-district player for Mankato East has graduated, so we'll see a lot of new faces. They'll see a lot of new faces on our side, so I'm sure a whole new challenge. And then at home, which I'm looking forward to, because I'll get to broadcast that one. That's September 9th, Albert Lee. So getting ready for the regular season, and then it starts to roll. It's thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's coming up fast. No, it's Mankato East did lose a significant number of it had a really good senior class.
Yeah.
And just not having played that program a ton, over the years, not really knowing what they have coming up, but coach over there does a great job preparing his group, and I think their JV gave our JV a pretty good game last year, so I'm sure they got a good class of guys ready to step in. So and it's just a much bigger school, bigger program, right? So they got more guys to pick from and things like that. So we know they're going to be a talented team and a really tough test week one. And so I always like kind of having that level of an opponent week one, because it just adds that sense of urgency to everything we do in preparation for that. We know we can't, sit around and relax, because if we're not ready to go, things aren't going to go the way they want there week one. So that'll be a tough test for us week one, and then home opener week two against Albert Lee will be a lot of fun. Getting Schaefer Field rocking and back to football on Friday nights in Stewartville is going to be.
I can't wait. Schaefer Field's going to be electric. You guys usually every year have an annual banquet. Do you have dates for that yet or not yet? Or not banquet, but the fundraiser for football team?
Yeah, our Stewartville Football Fun Night, which is organized by our amazing, wonderful Booster Club.
Such a great night that is.
Yep,
really
it's a ton of fun. I know you were able to come last year and experience that, and that was a lot of fun to have you there. This year it is going to be Saturday, October 8th. And it'll be at the Civic Center here in town again. I believe the first dinner seating is at 6 o'clock, and then there's a second one at 7 o'clock. We have a silent auction going on all during that time with a ton of awesome things.
Oh man, they do such a great job getting baskets together. That whole outside of the thing is all full.
Yep, all full.
Live auction.
Awesome stuff. And then we cap off the night with that live auction. And if you haven't experienced that yet, please be there because that's a ton of fun. With that going on, and again, just a ton of great items that everyone wants, and it's a pretty cool atmosphere having everyone live bid on that stuff. So it's a unique experience and a ton of fun. We look forward to having families, and community members attend that. Everyone is welcome, and it's a great night that goes to, directly to supporting kids in our program. One thing I've really tried to hit home with parents and players this year, and people don't realize, just the financial requirement of running, a program at our level and being able to deliver. We talk about delivering a great experience for our athletes in our program, and it costs money to do that. At
and
times
you talked about even the safety of the players. You and I were talking about the helmets and how much each of those cost. And
Yep, and everything gets more and more expensive every year.
Absolutely.
So people don't realize we have to fundraise over 80% of our yearly budget for our 7th through 12th grade program. And so a lot of people, the focus is, and we're talking about our varsity program, but all those funds go directly to not just our varsity guys, but our JV, our 9th grade, all the way down to our 7th and 8th grade program. We have, I think, 67 or 68 7th and 8th graders.
Oh my goodness.
Out for football.
That's great,
and so that's a huge program in itself that we have to fund and provide for, and again, have equipment for and deliver a great experience for them as well. So it's a tall task. I'm lucky to have a ton of people to help and support in that process, but we really look for support from the community when it comes to those fundraising efforts. To help support everyone in the program. My
favorite thing, are you guys selling those cards again? The you know what I'm talking about? The $5 off down under over 25. All those?
I'm guessing when this comes out, hopefully everyone got theirs already. The fundraiser will be done by then. We're in the middle of it right now. But maybe you can go.
I need to hit somebody up then. Nobody's even asked me.
No one's come over. Okay, we'll make
maybe nobody in the football program even knows who I am.
There's no way that's possible, but we got to get some kids up into the Hart Farms area there.
That's right.
In Rochester, a lot of Stewartville football fans up there, so we'll hopefully someone will get up to you. But that's going on right now. That'll end. We do that for a week, and again, that's kind of our big player fundraiser. We have our Booster Club fundraisers, that Fun Night, which we talked about, and then on the player end are those fundraiser cards. So
those are awesome.
To combine those efforts and provide for all the players in our program.
Awesome. Any final thoughts before I let you finally get to your the rest of your Saturday? I mean, I'm gonna get an angry text from Erin for keeping you so long.
No, not at all. She knows the drill and the routine, and she's super supportive of you and everything you give to.
Thank goodness.
To boost this program, so no worries there.
If not, at least Coach Pops won't be mad at me. More material, the better.
Right, exactly. No, it's again, just thank you for everything, and appreciate your support in the platform, and can't wait to kick off the 22 season, and getting back with you here on a weekly basis and talking about hopefully the continued success of our program. So it's going to be a great year. Can't wait.
I'm looking forward to it. That's going to do it here. Episode number 2 in season number 5. You've now seen the man, the myth, the legend, 2 weeks in a row. And like he said, hopefully every week we will be doing Tuesdays with Mueller one more time, the envy of probably every football program in the Big Southeast District, I'm assuming. And I'm the guy that gets the good fortune of being able to talk to him. And I'll be in his ear all season long trying to get all the inside scoop and deliver it to you on the broadcast. Again, September 2nd, Mankato East. That one is on the road. Hopefully they will stream that. And then at home, September 9th against Albert Lee. That'll be our home opener at Schaefer Field. Coach Aaron Meyer and I will be calling that game on Stewartville Activities on YouTube. If you can't make it there, which I hope you can, because Schaefer Field's electric. When this guy's team hits the field, that video comes on the scoreboard, the music starts going, you start getting chills, the hair on the back of your neck starts standing. You can't miss it. Try to make a home game this season. Support the team with those fundraisers. It is a great program where Coach Mueller not only builds great athletes, but he builds great people. That's going to do it for us here. My co-host, head coach Garrett Mueller, and I are going to sign off here. Season number 5, episode number 2 is in the books. Until next time, remember that you're never wrong to do the right thing. Take care, Tiger Nation.
Oh, he's going for it. Here's it out. Nolan Steer, catch that. Did he get back on it? Got it. Nolan Steer. End zone. You betcha. Wow. What a play. 0.9 seconds on the clock. Yes. Take off your headphones and see if the down under is exploding right now. Wow, what a catch. What a throw. Free garbage burgers all around. No, I didn't say that. That's not true. Roll snap. They hand it off to Bry. Bounces it outside. He's fouled Debo. He's going to cut it up. Smart play. He's still on his feet. There he goes. Yes. 30, 20, 10, 4. Breaks the record. Season rushing record. Season rushing touchdowns. And that puts Stewartville up early. Let's go.
Cody Mayer, big time three-pointer.
Man, Mayer is stepping up big.
Here comes up with that one.
This could be hammer time.
That's it. We've waited for that one for a few nights here. Will Cheddar throws it down.
Cheddar for me.
Got it.
Got it. Cheddar for 3.
What an answer.
Back to a 12-point Stewartville lead.